Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, we've been through a lot as being descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, and man, it's been a whole bunch of stuff going on in our community, what the police been doing it since the slavery days, putting Hebrews to death for no reason, minor infractions and so forth, and that how we the only people on the face of the earth that go through that type of stuff here in the Western Hemisphere. And we know that all those acts of violence towards us can be categorized as the curses that Prophet Moses spoke about that the Hebrews would go through for breaking covenant. Now this is what I want to show Hebrews. This is what we got to do. We got to reclaim our heritage. We abandoned our heritage. I'm going to show it again. I show it in all the videos. How we Israelites abandoned our heritage to some Babylonian scribes. Some real serious people who set up this Western civilization that we are in now. Man, to where we, suffering all these atrocities at the hand of our oppressors. And check this out, Hebrews. It's real dirty and low down that our oppressors, they have freed us from the physical bondage of the plantation, but they still have these non-pigmented peoples over us. It's like, it's the non-pigmented peoples that manned the plantation, that brutalized us and killed us and whipped us and beat us. Now, since they so-called freed us from the slavery, you still have non-pigmented peoples over us in our communities, the police officers, and man, they just extract brutal pain on us Israelites because they forefathers did it, and they've been doing it for a long time, for 400 years, and we can't expect these people to stop beating us and killing us when they address us by names that bring on suffering. If we are identified as blacks, especially that title black, man, that title black means death, destruction, no good, no accomplishment. So if you calling yourself black and then words have a meaning, and the meaning of the word is gloomy, destruction, no good, no accomplishment. Now we know that of lately they've been trying to switch it around and use some positive words for the word black, but we know historically in the psychic of these people's mind that hold us in captivity subliminally, how the word black is negative, and looked down upon. So if we Israelites are addressing ourselves by the title black, Negro, African Americans, and titles that our oppressors created from us, because not one time have we created an institution to do research and define our ethnicity and then say, well, this is where we come from and this is who we are. And the Israelite Brotherhood and did that now. So, we ain't got no problem proving and showing that we are Hebrews, but you got some so-called blacks that are really Hebrew Israelites address themselves as blacks and African American and Negroes. Those are titles that don't have no ancient history. They don't have no geographical land. They don't have nothing. And it's just a title that was created, and they attached that to us. We know we've been called Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and all type of titles since our captivity, and we know that those are the curses that the Creator said that we would be called proverbs and bywords and so forth. And then if you go to Deuteronomy, that's gonna be Deuteronomy, man, I should know that by heart. That should be Deuteronomy 28 verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, where the Elohim shall lead thee. And a proverb and a byword is going to be, titles that are not you, but some made up mockery names. And it's like that title black, man, that's the worst thing in the world to be called by, because black means gloomy, death, and destruction. So what we have to do, we have to start reclaiming our Israelite heritage, in order to, to change our destiny of destruction. Because long as we got the titles blacks, Negroes, and African Americans that don't attach you to nothing ancient or no land or nothing like that, then, we on the course of destruction. And there's, it's nothing positive, man, about the titles that they then gave us. It's like a big old question mark. You don't even know where does it go? We don't know. And basically it go where our enemies lead it to. They created black culture, the black holidays. That's like one of the mockeries out of everything. And we got to be real crazy. And then it show the extent and the damage of our minds if we accept like that Martin Luther King, knowing that Martin Luther King and his movement destroyed the so-called community, our community, our stores and businesses that we once had, that we didn't have to compete, man, with the non-pigmented peoples, with the Caucasians. We didn't have to compete with them because we had our own stores. And then they tricked Martin Luther King into marching and screaming and hooping and hollering to get into the other people's stores and stuff. And then we lost all our businesses, all that stuff translated into. But, Hebrews, if we want some sovereignty, and we need sovereignty, let's look up some of these words, because, man, it's important that we get an understanding of what these words mean. Because, like I said, some Babylonian scribes are responsible for Western civilization, and they created words. And when they attach certain words to you, and those words can be like negative, positive, you go 9 out of 10 get the negative aspect of that word if it's applied to you, and that's the way it's been going for us. But let's look here and see. Let's look up the word sovereignty, because that's what we need. We need some sovereignty, man. We need us a state that we can have by ourselves, and the people leave us alone, and we have sovereignty over ourselves. See, right now, us descendants from the transatlantic slave trade, we don't have no sovereignty, and we are basically still slaves, in the sense that the people who are responsible for us being here, man, created all these problems for us, and ain't never tried to put us back where we come from. But this is what sovereignty means. Sovereignty is the full right and power of a governing body over itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. That's what we need. We need sovereignty, man. We need full right and power of governing body over ourselves. The people from the transatlantic slave trade that they call blacks, and we know that the word black, man, it is awful, man. I'm gonna probably look that word up, but anybody can go, type in the word black, and man, it's gloomy, destruction, no good. It's got a whole negative aspect about it, and that's from the meanings that our, oppressors created. But that's like destiny, man. We need, a positive destiny, something to which a person or something is destined, fortune. A predetermined course of events, often held to be an irresponsible power or agency. We need destiny and sovereignty over ourselves, and we need to reclaim our heritage. We have to reclaim our heritage. If we don't reclaim our heritage, and then we stay Negroes, blacks, African Americans in the titles that our oppressors created, then they're going to continue to do us wrong. Because if you created black, and then black means destruction, then, man, in them Caucasians, man, it's okay to do anything that's black wrong, because it's negative, and that's in a psychic, But look, reclaiming. You know, we need to reclaim our heritage. You know, reclaiming. All right, it says, retrieve or recover something previously lost, given or paid, obtain the return of, you know. And that's what happened when we abandon our heritage, and now we have to reclaim it. We have to reclaim our heritage. And we have to reclaim our heritage with truth. And the only way that you can reclaim your heritage with truth is that you get an understanding of what happened to us in what they call the Bible and Tanakh history. Us people from the transatlantic slave trade broke the covenant and ran into Africa. We said that we didn't want to do the covenant that Moses gave us anymore, and how that it was better for us to go into Africa by way of Egypt and then do the African religions, because that's when we had plenty water and bread and we didn't hear the sound of the trumpet of war and so forth, you know. And we abandoned the coverage. Abandoned the covenant. I got plenty videos explaining this. I just recently released a video for the Israelite Brotherhood explaining how the Babylonian scribes got our history. But, you know, this what I want to show, how we have to reclaim our heritage, and we have to stop addressing ourselves as Negroes, blacks, African Americans, because those are titles that our oppressors created for us. We don't have no institutions and create books and ink factories to put ink on paper, and colleges that we totally own, that we have sovereignty over, and that we can decide on what we should be called as descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. We ain't never had that, and we ain't never did that. And then we constantly be getting these names: niggers, Negroes, blacks, coloreds, African Americans. And them titles don't relate to no history but in the slavery days, into a captured people that's been oppressed. And that how those titles don't go back to no ancient lands and don't have no ancient history and so forth. So if you being addressed by these titles, blacks, African Americans, and Negroes, then you is, you know what I'm saying, you ain't connected to nothing ancient. So therefore you not do no respect, you not do no honor, you not do no recognition. And the people that we are in captivity to, man, they ain't finna give you no honor if you ain't got it coming. And I'm here to tell you that we can get some honor and we can get some respect. All we have to do is start reclaiming our Israelite heritage, and it's easy to do. It's like I got a video called "The Quietest History on the Whole Face of This Earth," and I give praise to Almighty Y'all for letting me be the one to expose it and document it, and how it's easily to follow and see if you listen to me and understand, and at least try to understand what I'm saying, is that we people from the transatlantic slave trade are the Israelites that broke the covenant in the book of Jeremiah. Yes. We are those Israelites that said that we wasn't going to do the covenant no more, and that the whole, whenever you read the book of Jeremiah, you're reading about our last acts on the promised land for the 99%. Like I explained, that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. And then that's another thing, how these peoples been claiming a heritage off the 10 lost tribes. Oh man, we gonna put them to we gonna shine a light on them, and let the world see that that's been false history, because all the Hebrews ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah, besides like a little 1% that was captured and taken to Babylon. And then I explained when they come back from Babylon how they was got rid of so fast because they start mixing and doing everything, and how they was still up under the covenant law, and how us, the 99% that ran into Africa, had abandoned the law, and how we were set for slavery. And then that's why you see all these atrocities on us. And then that's one of the curses that the Creator said and also explained in Leviticus. Now we always say, what's you know, what happened in the curses in Deuteronomy, but do we ever go to Leviticus 26 and it explain how we were paying away in our enemy's land, and then it let you know that the people that's claiming the Israelite heritage are not Hebrews. They are not the Israelites because they are not painting away in their enemy's land, and they wasn't taken to Egypt in ships with a yoke on their neck. You know, I got videos explaining how the how enemies created, you know, these converts, and now how they trying to elevate them to an Israelite heritage as we real Israelites are waking up, and how they trying to derail the Israelite train and trying to stop it from reaching its destination, you know, which is the promised land, you know. And it's like, you know, I was talking to some Hebrews, man, about the Babylonian scribes that we abandoned our heritage from, that's from Sippar, and how Sippar it is a Babylonian Amorite created town, a nation that the Amorites created, and how that those people from Sippar that are called Sepharvims are responsible. That's like they was master merchants, and they're responsible for like the commerce in the government, and how a government, city, and state function with its kingship and its administration, and how they was responsible for that in Babylon and creating that, and how Western culture is patterned after the Babylonian system. And those people from Sippar, who would be called Sepharvims, was placed in our land in Samaria in 722 BC. In 722 BC, these peoples from here, from Sippar, was placed in our land, Samaria, while we was on Egyptian religion. You know, the Egyptians tricked us, and it's like I just did a video recently showing how the Egyptians had a correspondence with Sippar and the Sepharvims during the time of our Exodus, you know, a little bit before we exodus Egypt, and was coming into contact with the Amorite tribes who we were supposed to dispel and got rid of, which we didn't. And then that's why come all these tragedies and all this suffering and injustice is in the world, because of the merchant class Sepharvim system from Babylon controlled the land. You know, I also explain how Ashkenazi took over the Sephardi way, and then that'll be that light, that Illuminati light, that the Ashkenazi controlled the Illuminati, the Illuminati movement. And that's another thing, Hebrews, how them Africans is going ahead into the Illuminati movement, and how them Hamites is intertwined with the Illuminati movement and in the Masonic movement, and how those Hamites is caught up in that mess too. So here's some serious stuff going on, and we Hebrews gonna have to some kind of way stay bonded and resist those peoples in their organizations, the Illuminati organizations that's coming from the Africans, you know, and it's like it's a lot of Israelite organizations and leaders that are secret Masons and that are secret Illuminatis in the camps. And that's why come they teach out the New Testament and teach a demigod, a message to the Hebrews, something that the slave owners taught the Hebrews, and how that these so-called leaders are continuing the slave owners' message with that New Testament false doctrine, you know. And it's like I explained, you know, and that's like another thing, man. I kind of had a little look into the Illuminati leaders' world, and they all promote a Christian doctrine and then tied into Christianity also. But how that the head Illuminatis, they idol worship the them, man, it's a name for it, that the organization, the Catholic Church army that the seas control, not the damn, it'll come to me, but ain't anyway, the Christian organizations, military structure that come from the Catholic Church, me and them guys went and took the promised land from the Arabs and had battle with the Arabs. Man, they name gon' come to me in a minute. It's a mess how I be forgetting them little simple names with these organizations, but the Christian organizations that uprooted the Islam from the promised land and had continuous battles with the Islamic control of the promised land that was headed by the Catholic Church is controlled by Ashkenazi and the Illuminati. And then how about that the Sephardi groups created Islam and they use it for proxy wars. The Sephardis, who are the Sephardims, been having secret wars with Ashkenazi over the promised land and over the heritage that we Israelites abandoned during the Babylonian wars. And that's basically where the religions come from. And that's one of the things in the Israelite brotherhood that we stress. You see what they say. Religion killer. All those religions are tied into those Babylonian scribes that we Israelites abandon our heritage to. Alright, Hebrews. Now we know that, that we have to reclaim our heritage, man, in order to be treated right, man, in this world, and that how that we ain't gonna be treated right being called Negroes and African Americans and blacks, because those are titles that our enemies created that don't have no ancient culture, history, or land connected to it. So therefore, man, them names don't mean nothing. And so when you hurt people that addressed by those names, then it don't mean nothing. And that's the way it's been for us, so we have to reclaim our ancient name, which is Israelite. We are the Israelites. We are the children of Israel. We are the people that broke the covenant during the Babylonian wars that ran into Africa to say that we was going to do the Egyptian religion. And then, that caused our problems right there. Right there, breaking the covenant, because the Creator said that, once the covenant was broken, that all kind of stuff was going to happen to us. And then let's look at some of this here too. Like I say, that we be mostly just, whenever we think about the curses, we instantly think about Deuteronomy 28. But, before Deuteronomy 28 was wrote, the Creator set the blessings and curses out in Leviticus with prophet Moses, telling us. And then if you look at the, let's look and see. All right, I'm going to get down to this part. This is Leviticus 26:13. I am the Elohim your Yah, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye should not be their bondmen. See, that's why come we need sovereignty over ourselves. And long as we don't have sovereignty over ourselves as an ethnic group and as a people, then we're going to be bondmen. There's no other choice. You either going to have sovereignty over yourself, or you're going to be in bondage. And we not having sovereignty over ourselves, still in the land of our captivity where the slave owners brung us to, and we've been here for 400 years up under their system, because we know that we didn't create the laws of this nation, even though now they let us vote on it, and our vote don't mean nothing. But we didn't create the laws here, so we still in bondage. So we need some sovereignty. I am the Elohim your Yah, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye should not be their bondmen. And I have broken the bonds of your yoke and made ye go upright. See? So that's what we need, to be upright, and we need our bondage broken, because we don't have no sovereignty over ourselves. And then that's why come these evil peoples do us wrong, because their ancestors did us wrong, and it's been a tradition since our ancestors been in captivity here. So, these people's gonna continue that tradition. And then we addressed by titles that don't mean nothing. So yeah, they're gonna bust your head every chance they get. Alright, and if you shall despise, alright, now we'll do unto these commandments. And if you shall despise my statutes, or if you shall abhor my judgment, so that ye will not do all my commandment, but that ye break my covenant. And that's what we did during the Babylonian wars. We broke the covenant. We broke the covenant. Also, I will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning agony that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart. And ye shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemy shall eat it. That's like now everything we do, and that's like all the inventions in the past. Man, they took it, and we got nothing for it, and our hard labor and work since we've been here in captivity 400 years, they done dogged us out, and it's just been a mess. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursue it. Now, we just witnessed how the government, the state, just executed a brother in broad daylight. In broad daylight, in front of everybody. And how he was murdered, and how they trying to tell you that you didn't see what you seen. And how that they trying to make that a routine now, that you didn't see what you seen. Now you just seen this person get murdered on TV, a guy pressing his knee into his neck, choking him out. But now they say that didn't happen. See, that's what is, that's how they do people that is addressed by the title black, Negro, and African American. Because if we was addressed by the title Israel, and the people looked at us as Israelites, they wouldn't even try to do that. They know what happened for doing us like that up under our original title. That's gonna bring destruction upon them. So they have to keep us with these titles, Negroes, blacks, and African Americans, so they can keep their feet on us. Because if we get true titles that connect you to an ancient past, then they ain't gonna be too quick to go brutalize you and so forth, because the tables will turn on them, and the world will be looking at them as the enemy. Alright. And your strength shall be spent in vain. Alright. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you. And if you would not yet for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins, and I will break the pride of your power, and I will make your heaven as iron, and your earth as brass, and your strength shall be spent in vain, for your land shall not yield her increase, neither the tree. Let me see. All right. And if you walk contrary unto me, I will not hearken unto you, and I will bring 7 times more plagues upon you according to your sins. I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, and destroy your cattle, and make you few in number, and your highway shall be desolate. And that's just the way it is in our community, and how that the beasts always come dog somebody out for no reason, and just kill them and take them off this earth just for no reason, just for being an evil, wicked, mean beast. And that's what the Creator put on us. You see, he classified the Israelite enemies as beasts. Alright. Then I will walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times more, and I will bring a sword upon you that shall revenge the quarrel of my covenant. And that's what happened to us when we broke the covenant in the book of Jeremiah. We ran into Africa, and we said we didn't want to do the covenant no more. And we stayed in Africa till the transatlantic slave trade started. I got a few videos explaining that our first derogatory name was Gramentian. That's the first bad name that our enemies called us, was Gramentians. The Greek gonna call us that. The Greeks don't call us Gramentian. And then, we've been having bad names ever since then, but this is our first bad name. It's Gramentian. And When we Hebrews be saying, oh, we built some pyramids, we built the pyramids, we really talking about the pyramids that we built in Lower Libya. In Lower Libya. And Lower Libya is where we hung out at when we left the promised land, going into Africa to do the African Sahara religions that would cause our enslavement and make us be brought here to the West to be called Negroes, blacks, and African Americans, and all those evil titles and so forth that don't mean nothing. And that's one of the reasons why they step on you and kill you, because you ain't got no respect in name. You got to have some respect in name first, and then the enemies will start backing up off of you. You know, our first derogatory name was Gramentian. All right, so we know that, you know, that them curses that the Creator told us would be on us and been on us. All right, I'm on Leviticus 26 verse 28. Then I will walk contrary unto you, and also in fury, and I will chastise you 7 times for your sins, and ye shall eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters. And I will destroy your high places and cut down your images and cast your carcass upon your idols. And my soul shall abhor you, and I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will not smell the sweet savor of your orders, and I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and I will draw out a sword after you. See, we've been scattered amongst the heathens, and that sword that's been coming after us from these beasts has been because we broke that covenant in the book of Jeremiah. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. And then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths, and as long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when ye dwelled upon it. And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their heart in the lands of their enemies. And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursue it, and they shall fall one upon another as it were before a sword, and none pursue it. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies, and ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. Now that's another thing. All these folks claiming the Israelite heritage, we know that the covenant was broken because the Israelites are not in their homeland doing the law and the will of the Creator. And that how that when we was driven out the land, that, man, all those curses would be up on the Israelites. You know, you paining away and suffering in your enemy's land. Why come the people that's claiming the Israelite heritage that's in these other lands that's not in captivity, that didn't get on the slave ship with a yoke on their neck, why come they ain't going through this and paining away in their enemy's land? Is because they ain't Israelites. And I show you how the black Jews come off the Yemenite, Edomite source that went into Africa, and from the Sephardics running across North Africa and into Africa in 70 AD when Herd Edomite temple was destroyed. You know, and it's like I got a video, plenty videos explaining how Ashkenazi coming to our heritage under the name Scythian. You know, Ashkenazi coming to the Israelite heritage under the name Scythian. And then they settled in Scythopolis, or in Galilee, or in the northern part of the Israelite heritage, and they become known as Ashkenazi later on, the Scythians. All right, and then you have the Sephardis. The Sephardi Jews are the ones that we abandoned our heritage to originally when Ashkenazi chased us out the promised land under the name Scythian with the Chaldean, and how did these Amorites, who are the founders of Babylon and Western civilization, yes, Ashkenazi took it from them now, but before Ashkenazi took it from them, these folks created what's called Western civilization. Western civilization from Babylon, and how that these people was placed in our land in 722 BC, while the northern kingdom was on Egyptian religion from Jeroboam. We stayed on it for 300 years, from 931 BC, man, to about 638 BC, when King Josiah cleaned it up. And then the evil, wicked Egyptians would kill King Josiah and put us back on the Egyptian religion. And we would go into Africa, and we would be there till the transatlantic slave trade started. And then we here trying to wake up and trying to get these beasts up off of us, using these bad names that our enemies created. They not going to get up off you using them evil, wicked names: blacks, Negroes, African Americans. Man, they not finna stop beating you with them titles. They gonna bust your head even more, because you should know not to be using a title that your enemy created. We are Hebrew Israelites. Not one time in our whole existence here in captivity had the enemy ever said that you are Israelite, or call yourself a Hebrew Israelite. They ain't never said that. And half you Hebrews been raised in churches, and the preacher ain't never told you to call yourself by the children of Israel. You see what I'm saying? So, man, there's some serious mess going on. But we can clean this mess up, and we can get these beasts up off of us if we start claiming our real name, and we start calling ourselves the children of Israel. Them devils gonna back up. And then if we show that we the Hebrews that ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars, they really gonna back up. How about Hebrews? I've been facing some serious Illuminatis, and how about when I let them know that I'm a Hebrew Israelite and that we ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars? How about they delete me on Facebook and back up and don't want nothing to do with me? So, all those Egyptologists, them Negroes that's pushing that Egyptologist stuff, they ain't nothing but slick Illuminati worshipers and so forth. Any Israelite that push a Egyptian system or believe in the Egyptian system in a positive way is supporting the Illuminati struggle. And they goal, their goal is to be the spokesperson for the human species. Nada. That can't work for the Israelites. That's not in the Tanakh. That's not in prophecies for nobody to be the spokesperson for us Hebrew Israelites, and how we gonna have sovereignty over ourselves. Because it's in the Tanakh. The Tanakh say that we're gonna be taken back to our land, and how our enemies gonna bow down and treat us right, because they gonna wake up to that we Israelites. So the Illuminati, the Masonic lodges, the Alpha, Kappa organizations, them Greek organizations, these Negroes come way over here in captivity to get in Greek organizations and so forth. Greek and European organizations that help destroy the pigmented people's legacy. All right, Hebrews, look at this here. All right. All right, this is Leviticus 26:41, and if they should confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, let me see, and they that are left of you shall pain away in the iniquity of your enemies' lands, and also in the iniquity of their fathers shall they pain away with them. And that's what happened to us, and we've been paining away in our enemies' land. Look, but the Creator said that if we confess, and the only way you're going to be able to confess to your sins and that you broke the covenant is that you got to wake up to that you're an Israelite. And then when you wake up to that you are Israelite, then you can start making confessions about the sins that our forefathers did when they broke the covenant. That's part of reclaiming our heritage, is to ask for forgiveness for what our forefathers did when they say that they didn't want to do the covenant no more. And I'm finna read that because I keep talking about it. Let me read that. And if you go to the book of Jeremiah, you know, the book of Ezekiel go before the book of Jeremiah, but you know, the enemies put out books, put out history not in order so it could be a mystery to you, and you don't know when this act happened or when that act happened. Some people think that some of the acts happened, the prophecies ain't came to pass because they reading this book and don't know when it was wrote, and then not knowing the other prophets books and when they was wrote, and not knowing that the prophecies came to pass. A whole bunch of prophecies came to pass. But look, this is what we did in the book of Jeremiah. If you read the whole book, man, he talking about how wicked we was, how we was robbing, stealing, and killing each other, and we been our worstest enemy. Yeah, the enemy been having his foot on us, and we hate to see our enemies whoop us, but we been a worse enemy to ourselves than our enemies, because man, we just been like that since biblical days. And that was one of the reasons for us getting driven out the land. And whenever we own another culture's religion and belief system, we gonna kill each other. That's like us worshiping the Egyptian religion. If you look throughout Tanakh history, when we was on the Egyptian religion, that's mostly when we killed each other. When we on the Amorite, Canaanite culture, that's when we killed each other. But if we worshiping and following Almighty Yah, then we don't do that. So that's one of the most important reasons why our enemies been trying to keep us on this culture that, you know, they done created for us, that don't attach you to nothing. You just existing, you know. And how they done put animals over us. You know, they try to give animals more respect than they do us people from the transatlantic slave trade. You know, you ain't never seen your enemy put his feet on a dog's neck and crush it and choke him out. You ain't never seen your enemies hang a dog up on a tree. You ain't never seen your enemies burn a dog up and just be real mean to the dog. No, they treat us worse than they treat the animals. That's because the Creator said that He will rise up a beast in a nation of people that won't have no respect for the young or the old. You know, those part of the curses. But in the book of Jeremiah is how we kind of set everything in motion. We kind of did before the end, because we always kind of like broke the covenant. And the Creator told us that we would eventually break the covenant. And then when it happened, how He would turn his face from us. And then, you know, if the Creator turned His face from us, that it was angelic beings and other individuals on this planet besides Adam's creation, and that how that those folks would come and get us, and how we would be at the mercy of them. All right, if you go to let's see, that'll be Deuteronomy 31. Deuteronomy 31, where the Creator said He'll turn His back on us when the covenant was broken, and He even told Prophet Moses that the covenant would be broken. Alright, if you go to Deuteronomy 31, alright, in verse 16, and the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, Are not all these evils come upon us, because our Yah is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evil which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned unto other gods. Now, Prophet Moses even told us. Now, that's the Creator telling Prophet Moses that. But how, minister, this is Deuteronomy 31:29. For I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil shall befall you in the later days. You know, because you do evil in the sight of Elohim to provoke him to anger through the works of your hands. You know, Prophet Moses was telling us, that, hey man, y'all get in the promised land and then y'all don't follow this law that I'm giving you, that you're going to get driven out and all this stuff going to happen to you. And then we got driven out because after King Hezekiah tried to unite us and get us all together, his son Manasseh still fooled around with the Amorite, Canaanite religion. Josiah was born. Amon was born. That's Manasseh's son. He didn't do right, and he was following the enemy's religion. Then King Josiah was born, and he cleaned the kingdom up, and it was cleaned up for 31 years. And then the Egyptians come kill him, and then put us back on the Egyptian religion, and then we will go into Africa, and then that'll be the book of Jeremiah, and then this is what we see. This Jeremiah 44, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18 is the most crucialist verses in this whole Tanakh, besides them curses that Prophet Moses outlined. Then all the people which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, see, we was up off covenant land. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have been consumed by the sword and by famine. And that's messed up, man. We left the promised land going into Africa because we said that them people, the Ashkenazi who made up the Chaldean army, was chasing us, and that we were suffering because we wasn't in Africa doing the African Egyptian religion. Now that's after accepting the covenant from the Creator to destroy the Egyptian religion. And now the Queen of Heaven is that Is Horus Ptah stuff. And then we know that the Creator had told us not to do the Egyptian religion. That was one of the one of the main curses, was not to do the Egyptian religion, and how we ran to it, and then how that destroyed us. Look, Leviticus 18. And the Elohim spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Elohim your Yah. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwell, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, where I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinance. Ye shall do my judgment and keep my ordinance to walk therein. I am the Elohim your Yah. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, for if a man do them, he shall live in them. See, we ain't been able to live properly because we ain't been living in the law that the Creator gave us, but we've been living in the law that our enemies created, which is destruction for us. That's like I say, man, we have to reclaim our Israelite heritage in order to get the enemies up off of us. And I just showed you how we went into Egypt to do the Egyptians' religious system after the Creator told us not to do and follow the Egyptian law or their culture, or the Canaanite culture. And how about this culture that we have now is a Canaanite, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian culture, because it was the Sephardims that set the Western culture up. You know, if you go to 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24, these the people that was placed in our land while we was on Egyptian religion. You know, while we were slipping and sliding on the Egyptian religion, some real serious people got placed in our land. And if you go to 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddar, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwell in the cities thereof. Okay, if you type in Sepharvaim, you're going to see that it translates into Sephardi. And Sephardi is the Sephardic and the Sephardims. Those are the peoples that got our heritage. Those are the people that got our heritage while we was on Egyptian religion. They was placed in Samaria in 722 BC, as I just showed. And then they would come to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah. And then while we was messing off on the Egyptian religion and fussing and fighting and killing each other and robbing and stealing and prostituting and all kind of wickedness, that them people was laying in the cut. And then when Ashkenazi come in under the name Chaldean, the Scythians is Ashkenazi name in history. And then how did they come in with the Chaldeans and then burn the whole land up? Burn the whole land up and then chase us up off the land. Chase us up off the land and burn the whole land up. And it even tell you that the whole land was burnt up, and how that they burnt the houses and everything was burnt up. You know, if you go to 44, let me see. 44 verse 2. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. Guess why? Guess why? Because your boy, the Scythians now burnt the whole town down. You know, used to be a time you can go and get inside the temple and pray and cry and holler to Almighty Yah, and He'll hear us. And then, you know, we could be saved and stuff. But with that temple gone, there wasn't no getting up in there hollering and screaming for some help. And then how they burnt up all the houses, you know. And if you go to Jeremiah 52:13, and burnt the house of the Elohim, the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men, burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were the captains of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. You know, and man, they broke it down. And then these are the arrowheads. These are the folks that did it. Ashkenazi chased us out. And then when they chased us out, the Sephardi's were still there. They were still in the promised land. And then they would be there and they would have it out with Ashkenazi. And that's where all these religions come from. But look at that right there. That's Ashkenazi chasing us into Africa by way of Egypt for saying that we was going to do the Egyptian religion. And then these are the arrowheads that they shot at. A Scythian arrowhead shoot Jerusalem up. Scythian trilobite arrowheads were found at Tel Megadim, Athled, Megiddo, Kesan, Quashmana, Samaria, Tel Michael, Gezer, Tel in Nashaba, Jerusalem in the city of David, Kativ, Hanam, and on the western hill of Ashkelon, Ekron, Ashdod, Tel Beth, Tel El Hassi, Lachish, Beth Shemesh, Gileam. Man, the name go on and on and on. And those are the arrowheads that they found that date back to the Babylonian wars when the Scythians chased us into Africa for saying that we was going to do the Egyptian religion. You know, we kept saying that we was going to do the Egyptian religion, and we was eventually chased to it. And then we never returned. We never returned out of Africa after being driven there during the Babylonian wars. And how you know that we never come back out of Africa from worshiping the Egyptian religion, the African Sahara religion, is that you have the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi from 538 BC to 430 BC. They didn't record the Hebrews coming back out of Africa to be reunited with them. You know, we are the 99%. And as I showed it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, because all the tribes was there during King Hezekiah time. And then this is like 7 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity. And then that's like I explained with that Assyrian captivity, you know, our enemy been deceiving the world, because, you know, the Assyrian captivity isn't what, you know, what they portray it to be. You know, it's like the Assyrians did not come take no 10 tribes to Assyria, and how that the Assyrians came and got us Hebrews only to help them, because Ashkenazi, who is the Scythians, the Scythians was coming out of the Caucasus Mountain, and they kindled the Peruvians, the Cimmerians, all of them was coming from offering up underground, and how that they devastated and destroyed Assyria, and how Assyria was trying to get us Hebrews to help them. That's why they come kidnap 3 tribes, and then, you know, we was on Egyptian religion. You know, that's why they was able to take the fighters, because we was on Egyptian religion. And if you go to First Chronicles chapter 5, and then you get down to verse 18, the Reubenites and the Gadites, half tribe of Manasseh, availed men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bows, skillful in war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. All right, and then once you get over here to 26, and the Elohim stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Talcapanazer, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Harbor and Har, and to the river Gonzana to this day. All right, them gonna be the Hebrews. The Assyrians gonna need to help fight them Scythians that was coming up out of the Caucasus Mountain. That, you know, them Scythians would take Babylon over, and Chaldea. You know, that's like I showed in other videos, how that Chaldea was first controlled by an African stock, and then how the other folks got up in there and took it over and destroyed, you know, the original stock. You know, all right. Isaiah 23. Behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this people was not, till the Assyrians founded it for them that dwelled in the wilderness, that set it up, the towers thereof. They raised up the palace thereof, and he brought it unto naught. All right, then if you go to Nahum 3, you'll see that the Assyrians' original stock was the Africans and the Libyans and so forth, and that's where they got their strength from. All right, now just turn right to it. All praise be Almighty Yah. All right, that's 3. All right. Art thou better than populous Noah, the situated river that had its waters round about it, whose part was the sea, and her walls were the sea, and Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was Ephraim, Put, and Libya were thy helpers. You know, those were the African stock. You know, that's like Usher, who is the founder of Assyria, is going to be a son of Nimrod, and that's a Hamite stock. But then how that Hittite, no pig minute Cain stock, absorb Japhet tribes, and how they will all be up underground, and how that they will come off and up underground and start taking Assyria over. And then, Assyria will come and get us. And then that will prompt that 10 lost tribe myth that our enemies created, because they did trade in other lands and they were slick covering up they trading and stuff, when they converted all them folks. And then they say, oh, they just got there because of the 10 lost tribes in these other lands. See right here, this is where all our enemies had trade routes, with the Chadic people and the Berbers and all those our enemies right here. All these our enemies that the Sephardics had trade with. And those are the lands that they went to and that they converted a whole lot of peoples. And then right now today they calling them folks the tribes of Israel because of that 10 lost tribe myth. And then you got people up in Britain and England thinking that they the tribes of Israel because of that 10 lost tribe myth. And then I show that all the tribes are still around during Hezekiah time. And this is 7 years after the Assyrian captivity, and how everybody was still at home, and how everybody be all the way still at home until the Babylonians came. And then everybody was driven into Africa. Plain and simple as that. Right, and Hezekiah sent to all Israel in Judah and wrote letters. This is in 715 BC. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel in Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the kings of Assyria. You see what I'm saying? And then he go on down and name all the tribes. But then if you look at the inheritance that he sent the letter from Beersheba to Dan, man, that's the whole inheritance. That's the whole inheritance. Look, from Beersheba all the way to Dan. That's the whole inheritance. This is after the Assyrian captivity. The Assyrians took Manasseh, King Hezekiah's son, but they didn't take all the tribes. And then how everybody would still be there under Amon, and especially under King Josiah. And he had all the tribes there, for he cleaned up the whole Israel, the same as, his great-granddaddy sending a letter throughout the whole tribes. And then how the Egyptians would kill King Josiah and put us back on the Egyptian religion, and we will go into Africa, and that lead to us today for breaking covenant, because the Creator said he gonna get us once the covenant was broken. And sure enough, come to pass, here we is in captivity, being called by these proverbs and bywords, and we painting away in our enemy's land with our enemies on our neck, crushing us and beating us. So all them curses gonna come to pass. All right. So we see, King Hezekiah still got everybody at home. And as you read the posts, he already said we escaped the Assyrians. But as you get down to 11, nevertheless, the verse of Asher, Manasseh, Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. All right, you know what I'm saying? As you read, keep on reading. For a multitude of the people, even many of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Ashkenazi, Zebulun had not cleansed themselves, but they came to the Passover. All right, and then when you get over to King Hezekiah's great-grandson will be King Josiah. Now, this is way past the Assyrian captivity. The Assyrians is not even on the map no more. The Babylonian Scythians done destroyed Assyria and then knocked them off. I explained how Assyria got knocked off. They was crying for us to help them, trying to save them. But we couldn't save them because we was on Egyptian religion. So the Assyrians got destroyed by Ashkenazi. All right. And Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim. And this is in 640 BC. This is after the Assyrian captivity. They fighting for their lives right now. But when Hezekiah come on the throne, because the Creator gonna give Hezekiah a chance to clean it up, to clean up the kingdom, like that prophecy go back during Jeroboam time. You know, let me show that. That'll be 931 BC. All right, Hebrews, we have to reclaim our heritage. We got to reclaim our heritage. That's the only way we're going to get some respect, is to start addressing ourselves by our truthful titles. Israel. We the Israelites. Now, when you start telling your enemies that, then watch and see how they act. They going to back up. They don't want you to have that title because they know they can't jump on you with that title. See, they can't jump on you with that title. That's like the Scythians and Ashkenazis wouldn't have been able to chase us out the land if we wouldn't have been doing Egyptian religion. We don't get bothered. You don't hear Hebrews with the beast stomping Hebrew lights out on national TV and he calling for Almighty Yah for help. I ain't seen that yet. All right, if you go to then let's see here. All right, that'll be First Kings. All right, here's that prophecy for King Josiah that would come about 300 years later, and he cleaned the kingdom up when the Assyrians were no longer on the map, and all the Israelites were still there. And then King Josiah cleaned up the whole land, and Prophet Jeremiah would be there. And then the Egyptians would kill King Josiah, and then we would go back into Egypt by way of Egypt. So we would go back into Egypt to do their religion after they killed King Josiah. The Babylonians would come chase us off the land. All right, and this is 1 Kings 13. This is in 931 BC. And behold, there came a man of Yah out of Judah by the word of the Elohim unto Bethel, and Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. You know, Solomon chased him into Egypt. Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim, and how he went to his relatives and come back out and put two institutions of the Egyptian religion on us, and how it stayed on us for 300 years to King Josiah was born and fulfilled this prophecy. All right, and behold, there come a man of Yah out of Judah by the word of the Elohim unto Bethel, and Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense, and he cried against the altar in the word of the Elohim and said, O altar, altar, this said the Elohim, behold, a child shall be born unto the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priests of the high places that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall be burnt upon thee. All right, King Josiah was born 300 years later, and here he is doing just that. And then the Egyptians would come kill him and put us on the Egyptian religion. And then we would go into Africa and we would stay there till we was enslaved. And then that's where we started getting the derogatory names and start, the curses being fulfilled by our enemies torturing us and so forth. And Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand or to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after Yah of David his father, and in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high place, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images. Now hold on, let's go see what Prophet Jeremiah during this time, because Prophet Jeremiah gonna be around during this time too, when he started to cleaning up like witnesses. So we should have never stopped doing righteous and should have left that Egyptian stuff alone, and then would none of these tragedies be happening to us. Look, this is Jeremiah. The word of Jeremiah, the son of Hezekiah, the priest that were in Anath in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Elohim came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So now here it is, for in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim Yah David, his father. And in the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places. So the prophet Jeremiah come right while he was doing this, from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break them down, the altars of Balaam in his presence, and the image that were on high above them he cut down, in the groves and the carved images and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and strode it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattucks round about. Now those tribes wasn't mentioned during King Hezekiah time, but they are around during King Josiah time, which is later. And that go to show you that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, because all the tribes here. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. So King Josiah cleaned up the whole kingdom. We was free of Egyptian religion for 31 years. And then the Egyptians come killed him, put his son Jehoiakim on the throne. We go back to Egyptian religion. Ashkenazi come in under the name Chaldean, chase us out the land, and we go into Africa, and then we stay into Africa till the slave trade started. And it wasn't no getting around that, and that's what happened to us. So all these false histories that these peoples be having, man, about the Israelites this and the Israelites that, they can hang it up. And we can stop calling ourselves by titles that our enemies created. We can stop doing that, because we ain't gonna get no recognition and no respect. Look, transatlantic slave trade descendants are the true Israelites. The curses of Deuteronomy 28 as well as Leviticus 26, when it explained how the Israelites were paying away in our enemy's land. We are the Hebrews. We are the Israelites. So we can stop being called by Negroes, blacks, and African Americans thinking we gonna get some respect, and our enemies gonna back up off of us because we got some dignity in our name. No, they gonna crush us because we call black Negroes African American, and black means death, gloomy, destruction. So the enemy is gonna act that out, because that's what you call. You supposed to have that coming. Alright, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We ain't no Negroes, we ain't no blacks, and we got to reclaim our heritage. Reclaiming our heritage is what we have to do, which will change our destiny of destruction. We need sovereignty as descendants of the slave trade. We need sovereignty, man. We need our homeland back again. We need to be put back in the mountains. They can give us the mountains in the promised land, a place that don't none of them want, and we'll be all right. But we're gonna need some sovereignty over ourselves, and we're gonna need some land, and we finna get tired of being treated like our enemies been treating us, like dogs. Now they treat a dog better than they treat us. Alright, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Wake up, Hebrews, and start claiming your true name, and stop being called by titles that your oppressors created. Shalom.